We're live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Biscotti Conversations.
We're live.
We're live. We are live.
Right.
Living live.
We were nearly not live, but we were nearly live for about half an hour, 45 minutes. So we've been really fucked about by YouTube, and we're almost not in the mood to do this, but we're here now.
It's fine. The great thing about this particular subject, though, Ross, is that we've been not in the mood to do this since we started embarking upon this journey together, and
Yes.
I hated this from moment one. I just wanted you to know that.
Not only have we been delaying this episode for weeks now, we've been preparing for this episode for months now.
We could have done this. We could have done this the past 3 Thursdays, but we didn't because we really didn't want to do it.
We have lives.
Yeah. Because as a subject, it really sucked balls. And but here we are. And
so if you're this far in, you may have seen our previous 2 podcasts. I'm going to go through the rules again, and it will remind you of the subject matter. This is the worst films ever made, part 3. Rule number 1. Rule number 1. Each film is to be discussed in descending order, starting from good bad to bad bad. By the way, we're seriously on the bad end of the list. This will be the final episode. Number 2, we are allowed to reference any other film on the list if it is relevant. However, this rolls into rule number 3. We cannot talk about our worst film ever made, the forbidden film, except, of course, when we get to it in today's episode. Don't hand me the DVD. Fuck off. Leave it there. The cover's facing me. Can you turn it round?
It's right near my right leg. I hate the fact that it's that near me. Right, I hate it.
Disgusting, isn't it?
I can't believe we're doing this after today as well. Oh, anyway, though, thank you very much for joining us. If you have the nerve,
if you enjoy this, then thank you for joining us.
Salut! We are on the red wine today. We were going to stick to hard liquor, but
yeah, we were going to hoon an entire bottle of whiskey for the episode. I'm glad we're not.
Yeah, because
it is Thursday.
Yes, it's a school night. So, cheers, everybody. Sláinte.
Cheers. Right. I'm not very good at hooning wine.
I'm a fantastic wine hooner. I try not to do it, but
do you know the Macleods family in Scotland? They had it's like a 500-year-old tradition. They have like an ox horn of wine. It's well over a litre. And it was a tradition for each new lord to hoon the entire thing full of wine. And the last person who did it was in 1957, and he actually did it in front of Prince Philip and the Queen.
Fantastic!
You did not know that, did you?
I knew nothing about anything you just mentioned.
The stories, even though, so the Macleods have a number of like family traditions, including one called the fairy flag, which is rumored to be 1,000 years old. But importantly, with this ox horn, supposedly a lord, who the hell knows where he came from, was walking through the forest, did battle with an ox single-handedly, and cut this off as a reward.
He says.
Yeah, and literally, do you know why the tradition stands? Compare this to the fairy flag, where if you unfurl it, it's supposed to guarantee you victory in battle, and also guarantee a certain lock fills up with herring. Do you know why this tradition stands, the ox horn?
No.
It's simply to prove your level of masculinity if you're going to take the family title. That's it. There's no magic in it.
What, just hooning the wine?
Just hooning over a litre of wine and keeping it down. Oh, the last fact before we go any further.
Scottish people.
So the guy who did it in 57 managed to hoon all of it in well under 2 minutes.
I'm glad they chose wine, not vodka.
They chose
There'd have been
wine.
So many more dead lords. They chose vodka. That would have been appalling. Go on, Jimmy! Go on!
If vodka had been available in Scotland 500 years ago, you just know they would have done it, wouldn't you?
Fuck yeah! And there have been loads of dead people.
Can you defy death before you take the title?
There's so much more of a Jeffy line of people taking that throne as well.
They're animals. I mean, it's probably a good thing, really.
This is so much more of an interesting conversation than the one that we're actually meant to be having right now. You realise that?
That's the only reason I brought this up.
I would much rather sit here and talk about Scottish people hooning wine any day of the week for 2 hours.
Other than our first film at number 20.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely welcoming into the list. We're not going to go back. We're only going forwards with this motherfucker because we are. You join us. This is the 7th circle of hell. This is all shit, and it only gets worse until eventually you find out what our crowning jewel, our in jewel-encrusted turd at the base of this, and jewels are not even jewels; they are bits of sweet corn.
It's a turd so at the far reaches, the bottoms of hell, it's a sort of diamond of shit because of all the pressure around it.
Satan himself would have flushed this.
And then struggled and had to.
Yeah, he would have they would have broken the ball cock, and he'd have had to phone a guy up and
Hello,
stuff.
Mistopheles. Yeah, get that plumber in again.
Yeah, Tartarus. I need
I've
you.
done a
Mate.
shit
This is
that
really bad.
Yeah,
I can't.
away.
Yeah, it's not going. Anyway, we have at number 20 To Catch a Yeti featuring Meatloaf.
Meatloaf was in a few films. He might as well have not have been. I think this was made early.
No. He's okay in Fight Club.
He's in Fight Club.
He's Bitch Tips Fat Bob. Is that him? Yeah, that's Meatloaf. They had to open my picks and drain the fluid.
And there's your useless fact to introduce the.
Oh, thank you very much. No, it was not useless though, because you were having to go at Meatloaf's career, where he's actually has some redeeming qualities in his IMDB page, whereas this is not one of them. We're discussing. So you can shit on this one as much as you want.
I'm about to. So this is made.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I mean, I think this was made in the 90s. It looks like it was made in the 80s.
Fuck knows.
It had no budget. I mean, you could sell a few bits of shit in this house that we don't look at, and you would have found the budget to make this movie. To Catch a Yeti is about a Yeti that they capture, but no, some guys are trying to sell it to a zoo or something, and instead it's a sort of family thing, like, oh, isn't it cute? But it's this really badly made puppet.
Yeah, I remember.
You remember now? The CGI was appalling, insulting in any era. And the set design is terrible. The lighting is all off. Like, worse than what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, this is pretty bad. We had to,
This is good compared to Catch a Yeti.
Yeah, we had to steal a light bulb from another part of the house and put it into this light, which is beside the point. Anyway, don't you love the bar?
More effort.
Isn't the bar beautiful? I just want to can we just take a moment?
You just talk about this.
I really don't want to talk about this shit movie because I can't. I don't remember. I was amazed. I forgot that they had like a little false gremlin in it instead of an actual Yeti.
Yeah,
so the Yeti in this movie.
It's not convincing at all. Let's cross it off right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And talk about this bar.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'll say, everybody, by the way, that we're watching right now, we made this bar ourselves.
Us.
Alone. Yeah, absolutely. Alone. He and I. We sat outside of this doorway where you see, and we fucking with a mouse grinder, a mouse sander, you did and detailed the entire thing, and then wiped it clean. Redetailed another 2 times on another 2 higher grits. Maybe wasn't necessarily on the second one, but I think it's actually done a lot of work for the top of it. And then finished it off with a stain, another polish, and then another 2 coats of stain, and then a not a lacquer. What did we use again? It was like another resin. It was like it was just a sanding finish.
It's here for 2 reasons. First of all, we're clearly showing it off right now, and secondly, we don't know how we got the old armchair through those 2 doors, and we were like,
this was easier to get through the doors, and it looks nicer, and it's like it's built for podcasting. Look at it; it's a magnificent jewel in the room. We digress enough, and on to our next movie.
So don't watch To Catch a Yeti.
Don't watch To Catch a Yeti. Don't watch it, even if you want to see Meatloaf bombing.
No, suck the life out of you.
Yeah, fuck it.
Right, this is the first of one of our really embarrassing films where we have to admit, yes, we saw this film out.
We watched the whole thing.
And we did it for the reason of its title, which we're about to come to. And okay, it says something about us for watching it.
Yeah.
Tell the title.
Number 19 on our list of worst movies ever made is Terror Comes to Tiny Town. And the terror itself wasn't actually that terrifying.
There was no terror at all.
Oh, by the way,
I'm going to be blunt. It has a tagline, okay?
The tagline is, with an all-midget cast.
It was made in the 30s, okay?
And it
was made in about 1938.
It's like if a
spaghetti.
It's like if a really poorly funded spaghetti western was made, and then they were like, right, let's just do the entire thing with midgets.
They didn't even know what to do. There was an insulting opening scene with the director where he's separating 2 midgets as they're about to fight, and you think it's going to be, oh god, he's going to let them punch each other in the head for a whole film. We can't watch this. And then it wasn't even that. It became a sort of love plot and a musical for most of it.
About the music.
Yeah. And
don't let me on about that.
And then the terror is no terror. I think he gets nicely integrated into the town. But the director actually had plans to make an all-midget franchise. So it was going to start with this one, and then it was going to go into like a historical one, and then etc., pretty much ripping off every Hollywood cliche up to that point using dwarfs. Yeah, it's as insulting as it sounds. And then
I'm glad those plans fell through.
Yeah, and then he misses his own point where he couldn't even do the insulting thing. He's like, "Yeah, all midget film. That's a great idea." And he was like, "Hang on a minute, I have no idea how to make a film." And that's the film.
Basically, yeah. I don't really want to linger on it for too long because it was so. It was really awkward to watch.
Yeah. As an eccentric example of a film, that is the only reason someone might ever watch this.
A little bit like
it's the only film with an all-midget cast, and that still stands today, I believe.
Yeah, and it's kind of become, I do believe, a good comparison film would probably be, even though we've never seen it, though we've told ourselves that we needed to watch it, was Freaks. Google gobble, one of us, we accept him, one of us, and it's an all genuine like circus cast for the movie, and it was made back in the early 50s, I believe, as well. But that's kind of along the same lines, where you watch it and you go, this is just 100% exploitation, but
it's an exploitation film. That's the only way to put it.
But it's the whole thing is still done within a time and space, and it's kind of like it is a record of human existence.
It's there, yeah.
It is there.
It does not, though. It does not have the shortest lead actor of any film. Do you know what the title of that film is?
No.
It's a James Bond knockoff. I think it's from the Philippines, and it's called For Your Height Only. And the guy was,
pardon the pun,
over 2 foot, but under 3 foot. I don't remember how tall he was.
How small is that dude? That's insane.
He didn't look very.
Is he an Indian dude? Or is he genuinely a Philippine guy?
I think it was Philippines.
Because the smallest guys in the world was Indian.
Might be true, yeah.
But he like smokes loads. I remember watching this. And I watched this really sick documentary where like the shortest guy in the world met the tallest guy in the world. It was really very interesting. I know. I think we've gone on long enough.
Thankfully, we don't need to talk about.
Please cross that woman and
for the rest of this episode.
Let us move on to the next movie.
Actually, height disorder. Fucking hell, one.
Leaving height disorders and coming immediately back to it, we have number 18 on our list, which is Leprechaun 5 in the Hood, which is available on Amazon Prime, I think, right now. I think it's available on Amazon Prime, or it's available on Netflix.
It's gone down as a cult film. But it was horrible to watch.
It was really awkward. I cringed so many times.
It's got the director's repressed murder fantasies in it too much. I mean, Hitchcock and Psycho. Yeah, it's Hitchcock. This was like,
is it Warwick Davis?
Warwick Davis, and they got him to play
Warwick Davis.
Blunt, a rapey little leprechaun. Wasn't
there some like gnarly sexual scene in it as well? There was like some real uncomfortable thing where we like. We paused it, and then we paused it so we could like think that we wanted to leave the room, and then we were like, no. But we have rules that whenever we watch one of these movies, we have to watch the entire thing, and even if you go for a piss break, you are not allowed to unpause the movie.
You're not allowed to look away.
You're not allowed to pause the movie whilst the other person has
left the room. Most of these films have times where we've had to look away.
Naturally, but
this was bad. It was basically. Yeah, it was like a transvestite who seduces the leprechaun. And the leprechaun...
Does he have sex with her to death or something like that? Doesn't he kill her with sex or something like that?
Something like it was something just depraved.
There were lots of weird undertones. It kind of attempted to use narcotics culture, sort of at the time in order to.
It was exploiting hip hop culture as well, wasn't it?
Hip. Oh yeah, and he does a rap. He does a rap.
Yeah, it tries to slide its way into that. So I ended the film like, that was just fucking disgusting. I mean, it had no redeeming factor. Why would people watch this film?
I like my Soul Plane. I like my Mac and Devon Go to High School. I like my How High.
Like a shit film.
I like a stoner flick. I can't lie. Especially one as indulged in El Leaf, but it's. This one was shit. Like we were like, yeah, we would have definitely turned if this came on, regardless of whether regardless of whether or not you're baked or not when you're watching it, you would go, I would not let. We said, yeah, we wouldn't watch the rest of this.
In fact, we never thought about this film until it appeared.
Exactly.
So I'm going straight on to the next one.
That's what we need to know about it.
Okay. Left Behind. This one, number 15. Sorry, number 17. Left Behind. This one's actually quite funny.
Nicolas Cage is in charge of an aeroplane.
It is his worst film on this list. Now, it is funny because Nicolas Cage looks like he's pretending to be a pilot, which is, of course, what an actor is doing anyway, but he looks like he is clueless about being a pilot.
He's really serious. Like, he's really classically Nicolas Cage.
Serious.
It's so serious. It takes itself insanely seriously, which is one of the things that makes it funny. I can't remember if there's anybody else in there.
It's some evangelical bit of brilliance, which is...
Oh, yeah, there was much... aren't they all saved by God or Jesus or something?
Okay, so the idea of Left Behind is, those who are being christened into the church are the ones that achieve salvation on Judgment Day. So... some people are beamed up to heaven, and loads of people just disappear. And the people who are not christened, like
Nicolas Cage,
like the individualist atheist Nicolas Cage, is turned away from God. But the idea is trying to tell us that people who are not Christians would kill each other immediately on Judgment Day. Is the idea? So this plane is flying over, and they are trying to handle this situation. And then they end up landing down, and the whole
more tea vicar.
That's what it is. And then by the time the plane lands, the whole world has been destroyed. But there's lots of bullshit that happens that is not coherent. For some, Warwick Davis is in this as well.
No way was he.
He is in this.
He's not in this.
I swear he's in this.
Get the fuck out.
No,
we're having a triple bill. Wait, yeah, he's on the plane, isn't he? Oh my god! Well remembered.
He's this racist thug, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's like really pissed off. Wait, was it Warwick Davis?
He has a go at this black girl on the plane, and it's clearly racial intention, but they'll deny it. But then this guy ends up pulling out a gun on someone for no reason. Then you're asking, not only is this racist, how did you get the gun through airport security? What was the intention behind this?
Oh, yeah.
There's no explanation.
I don't know if it is him on Left Behind.
It is.
Did you research this before?
No, I did not, but
I'm having a look at the cast of this.
All right,
no, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's the dude from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Fine. Okay. Another guy, roughly 3 foot. All right.
You got small people confused. You're a bad person.
Maybe, but I'm not as bad as anyone who made Left Behind.
Exactly. Anybody that made this movie is
the people who made Left Behind are. Well, I think if you need to chuck money into a movie to
Chad Michael Vincent's in this. Oh wait, no, it's Chad Michael Murray. Sorry.
Who's that?
No, don't worry. I went off on a tangent that didn't actually exist. Then don't worry about it. Okay. Right. Anyway,
there's something repressed and violent and depraved about Left Behind. The only redeeming factor is clueless Nicolas Cage. You got paid a lot of money to be in this film, despite the film having no budget and terrible production.
He is one of the B-list masters. He's done more side movies almost than any other person I can think of. He's done so many films that I haven't seen. It's really impressive. Like, super impressive. Anyway,
so I hate that film. Just cross it off.
Can we leave that one behind?
Okay.
Okay, that was number 17. On to number 16. This one we couldn't really forget. It was quite quotable in terms of its actual look of it, and it's very strange in hindsight.
In fact, thinking about this list, this was the film that in the last 2 days kept coming up in my mind. Like, how do I talk about An American Hippie in Israel?
An American Hippie in Israel is our number 16, and
it's had an unusual background.
Yeah,
it was made about 71, and it was a lost film for a little while. But basically, in watching it, what was fascinating and what we couldn't leave behind is the fact that it manages to reveal all the worst aspects of 1960s counterculture. All the naivety is there on display. And if you want a greater lesson for why that peace and love movement failed, that's it. They're these murderous tyrants that's following the lead character throughout the entire movie. Yeah. And he believes the solution is to sing and dance. You remember?
Yeah. I'm also thinking as well that it's kind of like so you've got, isn't it? There's three guys, isn't it? There's like three dudes, and they're kind of like Gestapo-esque dressed
up. Two
up.
of them. Like,
oh, the two guys, and they have Tommy guns, and then they go around and they kill hippies basically, and the whole thing is kind of like geared towards this Third Reich kind of like a shadowy cult thing that takes out any form of hippie ideology that's happening. And also not only that, but the hippie ideology is also shown on camera as it immediately deforms itself the moment that it kind of reaches the pinnacle of its decadence on screen. So then our Gestapo is very weird. Yeah, the Gestapo people then come and immediately murder all of our on-screen hippies. Kind of like the moment, and it's very.
So he meets this girl, and there's another couple, and they run away to. I wish I could tell you where. It's a famous landmark in Israel, actually, but it's this rocky little island, isn't it? And they try and sort of re-establish society there. And it becomes a sort of Lord of the Flies thing, where they end up sort of falling out of each other.
Yeah,
and then becoming very sort of depraved and patriarchal. Someone's trying to nick someone else's girl, and there's loads of jealousy and stuff. But the funny part is just how cold the acting is, because it's like you and I are talking right now, and then going, "I hate you. I actually hate you." And going, like,
and then we try and push each other, and then one of us drowns the other one in the sea for no reason. And you're like, wow, that escalated quickly. Like, why?
Very quickly.
Like, okay.
So it spends loads of time trying to big up this utopian ideal, and then spends loads of time destroying it as well. And then, it's okay if you want to do that Lord of the Flies style, but it confuses its plot points and then just sort of collapses in on itself.
Yeah, it forgets a lot of shit that happened earlier on in the film, and then kind of blows off into this tangent where nothing actually really important happens, where it's trying to prove some kind of strange message, convey a strange message.
It doesn't know what it's trying to put forward.
It doesn't even know its own undercurrents.
And then has to borrow Lord of the Flies, really, to try and finish it.
And then I think the machine gun people come along, and then they're looking at them on the cliff, and then there's something to do with the car that they're driving.
Yeah, they just watch the hippies kind of,
and they kind of like everyone swaps partners as well. It's very strange. But anyway, like that's basically the whole thing. I think they all die in the end.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to wrap it up, we found it on the list because it was known as Israel's worst film production.
Yeah.
It is, okay, I will admit, it is vaguely interesting.
I'm so looking forward to the next movie on the list. I'm so looking forward to it. I can't wait.
But that was an American hippie in Israel. Okay.
Thank you.
I will let you introduce the Klansman, and then I will have...
Number 50.
I will have my thoughts.
We have the absolute... This is the collapse of Richard Burton's career. This is the Klansman at number 15, and is just horrible to witness in every way. The whole thing is
every way.
Just drawn out rape scenes and insane racism, and then there's Richard Burton, who was so absolutely unbelievable, like earth-shatteringly shit-faced throughout the. It's not funny. It's not funny. Throughout the end, it's not. It's really. I'm trying to pull it up. It's so not funny. It's not funny because he was so absolutely obliterated throughout the entire making of this movie that it was recorded that they couldn't get shots of him standing up. So most of the shots of him that you'll see in this, don't watch it for the love of God. But if you watch, actually no, type in Richard Burton Kung Fu into YouTube. That's all you do, and we'll put a link for you guys. Actually, we'll put a link in the description because it's gold. Anyway, so but yeah, they could only have scenes of him sitting down, and he mumbles and gets past all of his lines and he does this really shit-faced kung fu where he kind of awkwardly
the guy is so
like this. Like does that, but sideways to some guy at a train station, and the guy goes flying across the room and then hits like a load of baggage and then falls over, and he's like,
"That's the only exciting film in the film."
And then he needs to sit down again afterwards.
Yeah, all right. Let me tell you. Anyway, let me add my thoughts. Okay, I grew up really admiring Richard Burton.
As did I.
The great Welsh actor, the son of a coal miner who went and conquered the world. But Beyond that, he was a very cultured man who could hand you a copy of the complete works of William Shakespeare and say any line. And as soon as you'd start, he would know exactly what play you were doing and where you were, and then just start.
And
beyond that, he was a huge admirer of one of my favourite poets, Dylan Thomas. And Dylan Thomas had one recording of his great play, Under Milkwood, in his lifetime. And Richard Burton did a further 3 recordings in the 50s, before the decade was even out. I own 2 of them. So this is how far my appreciation for Richard Burton was. And of course, at this point in his career, he was drinking either 3 bottles of gin or vodka a day and smoking 100 cigarettes. The only way to get him to move across the set was to put a drink on the table at the other end. And I said to Will, "You've done it again."
Yeah.
And then we realised the only way the directors knew how to coordinate this bloke was to put a drink at the other end. That was the only reason he'd get up off his seat and drink. And I was reading about the making of this. Apparently, he didn't even know where he was, and he didn't even deserve a fucking paycheck.
I wonder what Elizabeth Taylor would have
He nearly died days after the recording.
Yeah.
I think he went to hospital during the filming of it as well, which wasn't very long. It was very rushed. And so the guy who was just this macho stallion in the 60s, 10 years later, he's aged about 40 years.
Yeah.
He looks like
terrible for his
shit.
age.
And I'm watching this thinking, why?
Yeah.
Why you? Why Richard Burton?
The Klansman.
I grew up listening to War of the Worlds,
Yeah.
He had the great voice, and then,
No one would have believed.
The last years of the 19th century. Human affairs are being watched with Gilson's face. As one studies ants under a microscope.
I
may have missed a line.
Yeah, it's a mitochondria, as one would see. Oh no, what would one call it? As one would see, organisms divide and multiply under a microscope. Minds immeasurably superior to our own.
Regarded this world with
envious eyes, and
slowly but surely
they drew their plans against us.
Dun, 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 fucking sick. That was actually, I think, after he got over the peak of his alcoholism, so at least he redeemed himself a bit.
Absolutely, he made a comeback. We're all good.
Is
Don't watch it.
Utter offensive dive of a film.
just watch the
everything about it is wrong. Moving on.
Absolutely, and we
another
are on
offensive dive of a film going on.
number 14, which is probably the most offensive name of a film that we have on this entire list, which is...
We're going to refer to it as gay black dudes from outer space.
Or gay N-words from outer space, if you
Gay black
prefer.
dudes is fine.
Yeah, that'll do. And oh my god, it was... How long was it? Was it about
long.
40 minutes long?
It was less than that. It was about 25 minutes. I mean, it barely made the definition of what we would call a film. But was so weird with its intention. I was so unsure as to, were they trying to be offensive, or was it actually like a gay underground subculture film from the early 90s?
A lot of things that we were looking at about this defined it as a film, I think. So we kind of felt that we were almost obliged to place it under the definition of a film. Really.
They're going through a tinfoil spaceship, and they come to Earth, and they realise women are tormenting their boyfriends and husbands throughout the world. And they need to introduce the culture of being gay and black to them. So they get zoomed down and they go to different areas. They go to one in America, one in Germany as well. And I think they literally push one girl into a pier and then run away with some other guy. Yeah, and they're like the whole undercurrent of dialogue throughout the entire movie is all incredibly crass and rude and it uses nothing but these very assaulted, very intense. Is it trying to be empowering to its, let's be honest, maligned subculture, particularly in the early 90s? Was it trying to be empowering to it, or not? I don't know.
I didn't know what the message of the entire thing was at all. It was like if a cartoon character had tried to make a movie. A bit.
It was a gay black dude.
Yeah, it was a gay black dude from outer space, and all the dialogue for it was made thusly as well. It was very confusing. I'm kind of done talking about it, really, if I can be completely honest.
There isn't even a lot to talk about with
this film. Because that's how
you would think it would be that interesting an artifact that there would be something we could talk about. And we've actually covered all of it.
Yeah.
It just sort of ends in this swimming pool scene. And they cover this bloke with... All right, I'll be frank. It was supposed to resemble semen in one way or another.
Oh,
that's a sort of induction thing, man. And now you're a gay black dude.
There we go.
And that was the
Welcome to
that was the end. That was no joke. That was the end of the film.
Yep.
And because it was only short, we went on to another bad film that evening, which thankfully wasn't bad enough to be on this list. But this film was plenty bad because it managed to make number 14 out of 60.
How many Ed Woods have we mentioned thus far? Is this our first?
Good point.
I think this is our first Ed Wood.
Ed Wood is obviously the great bad director, and we knew he was that bad that his films drew that much life out of you. We've only got 2 on this list, I think.
We are pulling you in finally to the one, the only, the terrible Ed Wood. We have at number 13, Plan 9 from Outer Space. And
so what don't you like about Plan 9?
Well, Ross, let me tell you. I dislike the set design. The fact that people were falling over their own costumes during the filming of it, during scenes. I think Bela Lugosi had another tumultuous fall down.
No, he actually died before the making of the film.
Remember?
What they shot were it was going to promotional stuff for a new film, and he died before they made it.
No, isn't he the intro?
He's had the intro, yeah.
But yeah, there we go. Yeah, so
but he definitely died before they made it.
Yeah, but they have him all heroined up doing the intro for it.
No, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's him.
No, definitely not. It was another dude.
Yeah.
The great intro. It's literally incoherent because it manages to. It's a shame, really. We didn't prepare in advance and give you the first intro because he manages to put everything in both the past, present, and future tense. So he keeps saying, "My friends, what I'm about to show you a long time ago, sometime near you in the future, this may happen to you."
You're wrong.
I'm sure it's not.
There you go.
He plays the old man, but the guy doing the intro is that guy, the amazing Criswell. I saw this the other day. That's the intro.
Yes, it is. It is, but Bela Lugosi though is in it.
I know he's in it. Yeah,
yeah,
he's in it. But the way in which he's fire, and it's just one shot, and there's one shot of him. There's one shot of him coming out of his house, and it's just he's coming out of his normal house. That's all the Bela Lugosi you actually see in the film. They basically spliced him in to try and promote the film. But yeah, the morphine killed him before that point. So that's what he's doing in the film.
And Ed Wood is, of course, oh, dude, you remember Tor Johnson? Oh, okay, so there's a gentleman by the name of Tor Johnson who is a
big bald bloke.
Yeah, very big bald bloke, who kind of like plays our like Uncle Fester meets Lurtz kind of character. And
he's probably on drugs like everyone else.
He lumbers forward through the entire thing, and that's all he really does. Is every single scene that they take him and put him in different places, and he just lumbers towards the camera like that every single time, which is a pretty good metaphor, really, for the entire movie because nothing actually happens. It's quite long.
It tries to happen. Stuff tries to happen really, really bad,
really hard.
There's a UFO on a piece of string. Do you remember the plane bit at the beginning?
No.
Where it's basically like our bar, but they've put a radio thing in the middle and they're pretending it's like a stick. And they're going, "Oh my God, there's a UFO," but there's a curtain behind them. And there's a guy who's working on the set, and the curtain moves. You can see the guy.
The whole film is just one.
It's actually hilarious. I mean, it is actually hilarious. It is spectacularly bad. Do you remember towards the end of the film, the main bad guy tries to give an explanation about how he's going to destroy the world?
Don't remember it.
Like sunbeams. Remember the sunbeam thing?
No. I barely remember this movie.
I mean, the thing's fucking incoherent. I barely remember this movie. Basically, he's going to harness the power. They just introduced it at the end of the film. He's going to harness the power of the sun to somehow destroy Earth. And it's this incoherent, trying to be scientific explanation. And it's just hilarious. And then the main guy asks this guy's motive. And he just has this really childish drop.
I don't remember this at all. I hate this movie. Can we stop talking about it? I'm so done with this film. It's really boring. Fuck this film.
So the film is probably one of the great bad movies, right? Every scene is wrong one way or another. The day and night shots are constantly incoherent.
You'll watch it and you won't know what you've seen, and then you'll wish you hadn't watched it, and then you'll go into the future and you go, "Wow, I really wasted however much of this film I could sit through
I've seen
of my
it
life."
Twice. I've seen it twice. I saw it once by myself the first time. I didn't get anything from it. You got to watch it with someone else to sort of hold your hand. But it's just an acid trip of weirdness. And you know what? I somewhat recommend it for just to, if there's one film on this list for the historical example of the great bad film, well, that's it. However, there are worse films than Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yes, and this next one is one of them.
Right, okay.
We have at number 12, Ross has prepared a small speech for this.
Stop. Right. Okay. So I think we discussed in the last episode, we all have a personal favourite bad film and a personal least favourite bad film.
Yeah.
This is...
Which does not count as the number one.
It's not the worst film ever made,
no.
It's probably not even as bad as number 2, which is another Ed Wood film. Hold my hat. I'm just going to read out what I prepared because I didn't want to find the stamina to come up with why I hate this film in one.
No. We haven't hit it yet. We're not hit it. No.
I know. I'm getting my laptop.
Hey, he genuinely prepared a whole thing.
While Will was preparing the audio for half an hour, I decided to write this out.
Okay, so
give him a bit of background if you want.
Okay, right. So this movie was a self-indulgent, which is a bit of an understatement, piece by Paris Hilton, a Hilton Hotel Group owner's daughter.
We know, sadly.
And it was kind of like her. I don't know how old she was. Like early 20s or something when she made it. It was like her post-teenage rambling.
She died young.
Yeah. Dude, don't be mean. But yeah,
no,
she was like her. It was her post-teenage ramblings about like how kind of awesome she thought.
Do you want me to just say exactly what I think about
it? And have you finally got your speech ready?
It's there, yeah.
Okay, and take it away.
Christabel Abbott is the title character in Paris Hilton's self-funded bore-fest Hollywood will be constantly trying to deny was ever made. It is shamefully called The Hottie and the Nottie. It features a talentless, narcissistic, and painfully unaware lead character using her appearance to compare herself and her apparent superiority towards others throughout this entire film. And then it gets worse. It is filled with gross-out humour that ends up being ultimately bullying to anyone who is not rich, blonde-haired, and blue-eyed.
Or Paris Hilton.
Implying that most people watching this film and have paid money to see the film are inherently flawed. So it's not just missing the point of what a comedy is supposed to be, it's inherently ideological in its entire message. It's actually flat-out pro-eugenic. I want to point out, though, why I hate this film. It wasn't that it made me gag, that it had no point beyond its horrid, vain message. Even our Nottie character turns out to be a pretty girl who just needed a makeover, so the film is even more so making its horrible point. I found it was making me physically violent. Like Paris Hilton and all the fucknut dumbwits in this film embodied everything I despised about the human condition. It was bringing out the worst in me, in everyone starring in it. It's comparable only to Triumph of the Will, Hitler's greatest propaganda piece, only with prettier people, and it was much, much less convincing.
Well, that kind of sums it up.
It brought out the worst in me talking about it. That's how bad it is.
Here's your hat and your wine.
Thank you. I hate that film, man.
I thought it was really
It was
funny.
my idea to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. He put it on. I thought it was really funny. I found the whole thing where it was like the whole like kind of uphill climb of like this Sisyphus like rambling of like the character trying to bang Paris Hilton for ages, and then eventually he kind of ends up going for the best friend. And I think wasn't it a Scary Movie that takes the piss out of that, or is it? Oh wait, no. Mean Girls as well as another one, which is actually a good film, which utilizes
but it knows
quite nicely.
it's that bad, and these people are.
But
it's in the title.
Really, this film, Hottie and the Nottie, thinks it is the tits, and that is what makes it hilarious. I genuinely laughed at many points. The bits that I was stark as laughing my head off, Ross had this expression, as you see now. But yeah, he gave a fantastic deliberation though about the entire movie, and I do believe that we could probably move on quite happily on to the next one.
Some films make you want to tear your eyes out. This wanted me to tear my heart out to prove how bad these people were and how much I hated it. That's not
perfect. Right. On to the next one, ladies and gentlemen. We have one of our personal favourite ones to discuss because it is another career destroyer, and it is at number 11. We have The Conqueror, featuring John Wayne playing Genghis Khan.
Was there a worse mixed match of a cast in history?
Howdy Pilgrim is now
it's entirely funded by Howard Hughes, the great aviator, in about 1954.
During his Jeffy period.
Very Jeffy.
And lots of the cast died from radiation poisoning many years later.
It was about 50 miles south of where they were doing nuclear tests, so pretty much immediately and 50 years after.
Most of the operational components and things like Operation Soaring Eagle and things like that, where they had the uranium and whatnot.
And of course, you can't get this out of your mind while you're watching this.
The whole thing makes it really fucked. Yeah, and there's actual shots as well of like people in like is it bunker shots and stuff or things like that, where you can actually see some of the bits in the background.
It had a big budget, but it's a huge waste of money. Okay, it's got nothing to do with Genghis Khan as well. It's this sort of. You think he's going to try and take over the world like Genghis Khan did? That doesn't happen.
No, it has no historical relevancy where it actually tries to draw upon Genghis Khan's amazing ride from Mongolia. I mean, amazing in terms of its intrigue. It's a very interesting thing. Where even the
bloke himself had an interesting life, and they made up something really not interesting instead.
Yeah, exactly. Died from choking on his own vomit from jeffing too hard.
That was the Hunt. It might have been Genghis Khan.
I'm pretty sure it was Genghis Khan actually as well. Died in his own tent.
I would have done it as well.
Yeah. I think he choked his own blood. Maybe I think it was. I can't quite remember. But yeah, his very interesting ride from Mongolia all the way to Krakow in Poland, which was fucking. If you think about anybody during any period of time when you're armed with nothing but horses and 60-pound bows. In terms, 60 pound in terms of the force pressure that it takes to pull, and it was either 60 pound or 100 and something. I think it was 100. Maybe 160. I can't remember. But yeah, it was fucking incredibly interesting though to have a look at that and to see though that when we look at a film like this, how badly they treat.
So let's go with what was wrong about it. This is a Howard Hughes vanity project, and he just basically had this great idea for a film. Genghis Khan. Right. Yeah. Genghis Khan kidnaps this woman in some caravan, and it's basically a story of Stockholm syndrome about how this woman turns to love Genghis instead, but it doesn't know that's what it's doing. So, and that's a film. That's the whole film. It's at least 2.5 hours.
Bearing in mind as well that John Wayne has also played in Indian war chieftains as well in I think another film or another 2 films. Which is also very weird and uncomfortable.
For the roles he did, he's not an actor that's aged well, is it?
No.
Everything is racist now. What's actually quite funny, actually, he attempts a Mongolian accent, and his first line in the film, and then he abandons it and then goes to his normal accent.
Yeah. He just goes straight for American. Yeah, howdy, Vulgar. I just got off my horse.
I'm Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan.
We're gonna take China.
Yeah, we got our horses and we'll ride over your village.
But first, I'm gonna spend 2.5 hours in this movie.
Yeah,
convincing you that you love me.
nothing to do with any of the elaborate plots of when Genghis Khan would actually in real life lay siege to a city by the utilization of tent threats, whereby he used the one coloured tent outside the city and then would change it to another one, saying like, okay, right, everybody, if you're not out of the city by now, then I will kill you. And then, eventually you're at the Red Tent, which is, I think, is the name of a book or something, which was debated, which is written about Genghis Khan, which is also about the City of Bones along the Silk Road. The problem is, though, is that you end up going into the actual historical fact about this of how far away, because there's none of this is in the movie.
2.5 hours of a love subplot, and you're waiting. Okay, so when's he going to invade China?
Didn't happen. And none of this happened. John Wayne did not play Genghis Khan in real life.
Yep.
Genghis Khan did not have an American accent, and Genghis Khan was also not in the desert regions that they actually filmed it in. Like,
they could have done plenty of interesting things with the budget they committed to it and didn't do anything. And the worst part, to top it all off, everyone in the cast and crew died young for filming it.
Yep, because of
one man's
radiation poisoning.
And radiation poisoning.
Absolutely, and that's pretty much The Conqueror featuring John Wayne, ladies and gentlemen. And now we're going to be
hello, we're in the top 10, finally!
We've finally moved on to the top 10. We have reached the halfway mark, and we are 45 minutes. We're doing well. We're cutting time.
We got
no, because we know what we're getting.
We have that's good. The last film is going to take.
We've been rushing for a little bit just because of the fact that we know. We know exactly what we're coming into contact with.
I'm going to underline it. You don't know the title, but I'm going to underline it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
attention here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at it right now and it looks horrible. We have candles ready for a specific film at number 7, which we will get to very soon, which is 3 films.
Don't worry, we can race through these terrible. Okay, number 8 we'll have to go into detail, but we've got some fucking shit to talk about, and then we'll go into we'll get to the symbolism of the last part of this trilogy of podcasts.
I'm a little bit excited. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't feel sad. I mean, some people would say,
so happy.
Some people would say, "Oh, it's so sad. It's nearly over." Thank God it's nearly over. We can do something more interesting. I'm sure there's
many people in our audience that are looking forward to.
I'll be blunt. Okay, when we talk about after this, it's probably not going to be as interesting as this shitty list, but it will be nicer for us. And since we're spending an evening doing this, that's what we need after this.
We're going to sit here and rail against the worst pieces of shit that we have ever seen on television.
Sadly, we're quite good at it. We were the ones who bestowed, who had to.
We found a rabbit hole and we went down it and we kept going down it and this is it. It's weird to think that this is
the top 10.
We're in the top 10. This is weird. Actually, guys, we're actually getting a little bit oddly emotional. We're simultaneously a tiny bit sad, but over the fucking moon. I will never.
You're going to be sad until I point to some of these films we've got to discuss.
Oh yeah. Oh fuck that one. Oh God, I can't. I don't want to talk about that. The funny thing as well is that you read the name before you're about to say it, and then you go, I don't want to talk about this.
Right, let's start.
Okay, let's
at number 10, we have a Christmas film.
Which we didn't finish. Because on purpose! We just stopped watching it!
And we never give up on films. You can stop this now. Stop it now.
Ladies and gentlemen, featuring at number 10, Hulk Hogan in Santa with Muscles, where our hero, Hulk Hogan, when showing off to a load of people when he's like Mr. Hulk Hogan and he's kind of like a bit of a vanity project and he wants to say that, I used to be a bad guy, but now I'm going to turn into a good guy through this redemption story at Christmas. What happens to him is he falls down he falls down a laundry chute, knocks his head, and happens to be dressed as Father Christmas. And he genuinely believes he's Santa. And the guy that he's talking to when he gets out of the laundry basket is actually dressed as an elf, so it kind of instills the whole thing that he's Santa Claus.
Compare this to one we've just spoken about. The Hottie and the Nottie is a vanity project. And the thing that made me so angry is Paris Hilton, end of the film, not self-aware.
Yeah.
Whereas with Santa with Muscles, he must have realised what an absolute dickhead he must have appeared.
The whole thing turns into some weird espionage.
But it's so fucking boring.
It's really lame.
It has no point.
So they dragged out this entire sequence of him being dressed as Santa Claus with muscles for like an hour and a half. And you just sit there like, why does anyone care? Like, no one cares.
He's trying to act.
He's like using all of his muscles and willpower to pull this piece of shit out of the garbage chute as much as he possibly can, and it just doesn't happen for him. And we don't even know what happens there.
Just as we learned with Hobbs and Shaw, muscles does not make a film.
He does fire a missile launcher, I think, at one point in the film. I think so. It probably doesn't happen. I've just imagined that to make it more interesting in my own brain.
I imagine loads of things more interesting in my brain that were happening while I was watching the film that didn't actually happen.
Hulk Hogan dressed as Santa.
And they find a kid and it's supposed to be sweet and it's like,
it's supposed to be a lot of things that it's not. And you would turn it off too if you watched it. So I wouldn't recommend.
You know one thing that it is?
Rubbish.
It's complete shit.
It's really bad movie. I would watch it. So far this film. On to the next one.
Right. This film is disgusting.
This film is fucking appalling. This one was shit. I hate this film. This is Garbage Pail Kids number 9, which is a cult classic, and
it is as bad as everyone says.
It's really disgusting and crude, and just drags your taste buds through poo.
It's got some pretty famous actor in it, and I forgot his name.
Yeah,
but, it's basically full of these puppet things, and I think they're dwarves in suits, actually.
Yeah, we're pretty sure.
But they hadn't finished the film or the construction of the costumes when it was made. Backgrounds here. So, do you know, like, I'm trying to compare it to the Cabbage Patch Kids? The 80s, it was like a card thing.
Yes.
This is like a male equivalent, and the Garbage Pail Kids.
It was a card game.
Were these gross little cards you would collect, and these became characters in them. But it was disgusting. There was one character that wet themselves. There was one that was sick all the time.
Yeah, it threw up.
There was and then there was loads of other disgusting things that weren't actually intentional. And it had to do with the fact, we had the crocodile one. The thing, but some of it made it disgusting with the fact that the costumes weren't actually finished, and so eyes would go and then catch up later.
It would attempt to have this really heartfelt conversation whilst maintaining fourth wall eye contact at the camera, like, and then you've got this one eye that's doing a crab eye. It's like looking off in another direction, and then the other eye would kind of join it, like for a bit. So you've got this weird,
okay.
Maybe we should all be friends.
I've just remembered the plot, right?
Well,
so I know. So it's a bloke who goes into this magic shop. Sorry, kid, and the shop owner says, warn you about this barrel or whatever. Don't spill it. And he spills. Hang on. He spills the barrel. And the Garbage Pail Kids come up, and he realizes they're relatively friendly in a way. No, they're not. And he wants this girl to fall in love with him. And not only is that manipulative in its very context, this girl is just an evil person who he would probably leave alone. So I forget how this progresses.
There's this whole exploitive underage thing as well.
Oh, it's all underage, isn't it?
The whole thing is like the director kind of going like, "Ooh, look at this kids. Kind of thing." Yeah, kids. Oh, and you're like, why am I watching this? Like,
I mean, the girl was at the oldest 15, and he looked about 12. I mean, it's fucking wrong.
But then it gets to her like matey boyfriends that were all kind of like definitely like. Were they a bit older than that or something? Like they were like 19 I think you're right, or something. And the whole thing
again,
was like this.
Again, it's bloody weird. And basically, we get to the end of the film, and you'd think, if it was any normal film, that the kid had learnt something along the way, and then would announce something when he says he doesn't want to be with this girl. And do you know what he says? Do you remember what he said?
No idea. I forgot it.
He says, I don't want to be with you. You're ugly. And then walked away. That's the moral of the film.
Yeah.
That's where it.
So the message that we're trying to put forward about this movie, if we're going to say anything on this, is this film is ugly. Don't watch it. Fuck this film.
I love Larry.
Cross that shit off. Let's move on to the next one.
It's even worse.
Oh God. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Now we move into. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, please don't judge us too harshly on this one.
You've got to, because really after the scandal came out, that was when we watched the film. We were intending to find something All right, we were intending to find the worst film ever made, and this made a fucking good attempt.
This it really climbed very far up the list, and it was Mr. Bill Cosby's Leonard Part 6.
And they knew when it was released it was one of the worst films ever made.
This was definitely one of the most uncomfortable watches of anything I've had. This is
except the worst film ever made.
This is like Nazi genocide, like uncomfortable levels of watching. You know, when you watch that in history class when you're a kid.
All right, so we knew about the scandal, okay, and of course the details were still coming out. And it's Bill Cosby in a film on a set with underage girls,
and lots of
and
other
it's supposed
old
to
dudes.
be
like lots of other old dudes that were like all sorts of like mapped out implications with lots of other people. We're pretty sure when we were like there was like some other.
You'll notice I'm uncomfortable right now.
This is very uncomfortable.
So right, also again, what makes the film bad, not just the hindsight, is that the first joke is a fish in a swimming pool that gets off over a porn mag it finds in a swimming pool. Do you remember that?
No.
So we already know the humour is going
to
be...
My brain is really...
Because this was the height of Cosby's power, so this is one of those... He thought he was being funny, and literally no one could challenge him. Not only because he hadn't really done anything wrong publicly at that time, but he was also, as you could probably imagine, it was such a weird macho culture on set that he was probably unchallengeable. So this funny shit completely misses the point start to finish. And of course, no one was there to tell him this wasn't funny.
Yeah.
And
because who's going to stand up to that guy?
But Bill Cosby plays this. I forget the exact term. It's supposed to be like a role model character.
Yeah, like
and it's basically a film where Cosby wants to be worshipped by everyone around him.
Yeah.
And he plays that character. Everyone worships.
He kind of like
psycho. It was a psycho film.
He wears the sweater and is like really nice, and he never. Like he always looks at the person, like, with this weird kind of over the top, like glaring sincerity that he.
And always a bit too close.
He's always a little bit too close, like
I'm gonna look out for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm gonna make sure that you're okay. In every way possible. And by the time that we'd finished watching it, we were physically sick. It was fucking horrible.
Vile.
We stayed up for another 2 hours and watched nice things afterwards. And played Age of Empires, I think, for a considerable time and tried to blot out this movie because it was just like we kept having flashbacks to the fact that we'd watched it. Like after we'd watched
I haven't thought about it for a while as well.
Exactly.
It's
like
so
the whole
bad
thing is we're revisiting this now.
At least it's forgettable because it's that bad. But now we're having to
absolutely.
We haven't even gone into any of the details.
No, exactly. Because I don't really want to. But this movie exists, and I really.
Hang on a minute. I remembered a very important point.
Oh, for God's sake!
He's a secret agent. Did you remember that?
No.
Part 6 is supposed to be a cliche of like spy films. Yeah.
Oh.
It was that bad that obviously we forgot that was why he was this cool guy and everyone was supposed to love him and he was looking out for everyone. Yada yada yada. Crossing off the list right now.
Messed up, uncomfortable, and nobody should ever watch it, and it should be banished into the recesses of history and only ever discussed when something this bad actually happens.
When you can find a film that can compete with how bad Leonard Part 6 is, that's when you're allowed to discuss it.
And which is where we're actually heading with our list at the moment.
Okay.
Now, forgetting that piece of shit ever happened, we have at number 7.
Right, before we discuss the film, number 7 is symbolic for us because we call it the pass-through barrier. This is the underworld of the worst films ever made, and we need a bit of a spectacle. So,
absolutely, we'll be lighting some candles in.
I put 2 over there for you if you wanted to light the candle yourself. So,
I didn't have a lighter on my side of the.
I've only got one working one.
I can't.
I'm trying to give up smoking. That's why I'm vaping all the time. As you probably gathered right now.
He's
he's
doing very well, but he's hitting the vape pretty hard. You can probably light that one off the other 2. Actually.
Yeah, I forgot that.
I forgot flame can be used to light other things that are good with fire.
There are people after this who made a film before realizing that man discovered fire. That's how bad and underdeveloped they really are. But right, so we're at the pass-through barrier now. The film is obviously called Pass-Through, if you haven't gathered,
and it's directed by our old throwback, the one and only Neil Breen. Oh my God!
This is his worst film
This is his
ever.
magnum opus of shit. This is this is his statue. This is his David. This is his Sistine Chapel of terrible waste of everybody's time. This is, you should never have tried.
It's like the hand of God reaching for your penis. It's so uncomfortable.
Most of it's stock footage. It's shots from a helicopter that somebody else did that he's found in an archive somewhere.
No, he bought a drone. I mean, he's so proud of the drone he bought that actually fills up a lot of the content. A lot of the original content, and then there's loads of stock footage.
Yeah. And the only draw to the entire movie, though, is the fact that he has and there isn't, it really isn't a draw at all. Like, you could just listen to me say this and you would never need to watch the movie. There's a bit where he talks to a tiger, which is definitely not in the same shot as him, but they've phase clipped it into the same shot as him, very obviously.
There's loads of Neil Breen shots, by which I define as basically close-ups of Neil Breen's placid face going...
You know, and he pontificates on something and you've no idea what it is. Yeah, like there's nothing's happening. Like the opposite of things happening. Like if you could, you know, when you can sit in comfortable silence with somebody. Right now, okay, now think of that, and then think about when you can sit in uncomfortable silence.
The film is so bad that it just did out this Imagine. There you go. That's how bad the film is.
Imagine uncomfortable silence for how long was this movie? 2 hours.
2 hours.
I sat through this film. Ross sat through it twice.
Yeah, I watched it with a mate about. Sorry, Jess. I watched it with a friend of mine, and of course she hated me for it, but I had to show her this film because it was a spectacle of how bad a film can possibly be.
Nothing happens. Nothing. It's
only about
shots of power lines.
Is about at a push half an hour of the film.
Does he kill people?
Yes, we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Let me do the setup before we get to the horrible finale. Right,
fine.
Only about half an hour of it has actually got to do with the plot. It's loads of stuff about him ranting about global warming, and he doesn't even seem to understand how green power actually works. There's a hostage thing, and so basically there are people for no reason. These hostages are taken, and they're clearly, he might have pulled them up from the street and actually kidnapped them. We really don't know, but that's how badly they're acting, because that may well have been the case. So these guys are being carted around for no reason. And of course, Neil Breen is preachy. I'm going to lead it on so I get you to say it.
Okay.
Neil Breen is preachy. He is also clearly repressing some terrible violence in him.
Yeah.
And there are other films in which he's okay commanding people to kill themselves. Fateful Findings has world leaders blowing their brains out, and we have to endure this.
I thought that was
However, no. This is the one where he appears. You'll probably remember when I say it.
Sniper?
No, he appears on a newscast thing, and the presenters disappear, and then he takes over the news for that night. Do you remember the scene, or do you want me to say it?
I can't remember now.
All right, this is definitely passed through because I looked this up. He wipes out half of the world's population.
Oh, yeah, he does a Thanos. Oh,
literally billions. He's like, some of us are good and some of us are bad, and I'm going to eradicate them for you. And he kills billions of people. Like, they just disappear.
Right, he just knows.
And he's like,
he is God.
I am God.
I am Neil Breen, and I am God. I am your savior. I am here to solve all of the world's problems.
By killing loads of you.
And you didn't ask for it, because I know better than everybody. And that's the reason why Pastor is because everything after this is just going to get worse.
And even in what we said, we're describing it as if something happened, but most of the film is such a void that we compared it only to traveling the river Styx. You're clearly you must be dead by now to get this far. And if you've gone through all of pass through to get to the other side, you probably are dead and are never going to come back.
You can't even pay the ferryman at this point. You literally have to keep he demands sexual favors from you in order to keep the boat moving.
I nearly said that, and you beat me to it.
You have to blow the ferryman. I can't remember what his name is.
Neil Breen.
Is it Karoas or something like that? Is that the name of the Koros? or something. I remember it's close to Kronos.
What is symbolic is people used to drink from the river to forget their memories of a past life, and once you've seen the films after this point, you forget your memories of a past life and any happiness before it.
Every single movie after this, by the way, belongs, and especially the last film, belongs in the depths of Tartarus.
You cannot convince me, if you want to comment after this, and some people will message us individually and go, hey, try this. You cannot convince me that the films we've decided in our top 6, particularly number 1, are going to be worse than what we've discovered. This is because we've been through this many films, we can say with clarity, it's not worse than that or that.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to cross off Password. I'm going to cross it off a few times, actually. Actually, let's get rid of the whole title.
Fuck this movie. Okay, and Legend, we're moving further into the depths of hell. Right, at number 6, we have a particularly bad Charlie Sheen movie.
He's one of the many, actually, really big actors that are in it. Actually, it was my dad that recommended this film.
The guy from if you're the dude, the funny dude from Whose Line Is It Anyway? Is also in this as well. He's the squirrel.
Who's the guy with Ricky Gervais all the time? The really tall guy. What's his name?
Not Stephen Merchant.
Yeah, he's in it.
Stephen Merchant.
Yeah, he's in it. He's in it in the Halle Berry one.
Oh shit, dude! I totally did not remember that at all, man. Oh, you've been doing your research before this.
I did not. That was one of my least favorite escapades. Okay, so movie 43 was filmed over many years to try and get these actors together, and it was done as sort of snippets, and they were like comic sketches. So which one did you laugh at?
None of them, actually. But I remember the one I giggled at, and then I kind of felt sick immediately afterwards, though. It was the Hugh Jackman one, which is the first one, isn't it? With the ball bag, where he's having dinner with a lady, and he's got a set of fake balls, which are like dangling from his chin, and he never brings it up. Like the whole thing is that he doesn't discuss it.
And of course, the girl's going like, does he know? Is he going to comment? And yeah, we're supposed to think this is funny, and
I think they end up talking about it for a while as well. But the scene keeps going for ages. It doesn't stop or cut away or cut back. And then there's another one as well where there was there was all sorts of genital mutilation jokes and fart jokes. Like they were really horrible and it kept going, and they kept trying to. They found a horrible, uncomfortable, disgusting mark, and then they keep hitting it, and it just makes it like if it's even possible,
even less funny. Yeah, I mean, it's a great example. I think actually, this is the worst comedy film on our list. If you look now, none of the others are comedies.
Well, if you define the next one as the one after the next one as if you define number 4 as a children's film, not a comedy, then yeah, definitely.
You know, it was uniquely unfunny. You're right. The awkward points got more and more awkward and further away from being funny. George Carlin said a great rule about comedy, and I'm going to repeat to you now. It's about finding the line between, amusing them and making the audience gag. You don't want to go too far. This one just gets a rock and hurls it over the line.
Mm-hmm.
It's constantly fascinatingly unfunny. And there's so much immoral shit in it as well. Do you remember the final scene? There was one, I think it was after the end credits, or maybe just before. But it was a surprise one that was like, hey, we've got it was the bloke who owned a cat, and he got a new girlfriend, and the cat is jealous. The cat is trying to fuck him, and the cat is watching the girlfriend and the new boyfriend have sex, and the cat is jerking off whilst shoving something up its asshole. I don't even need to tell you what that was, then you already knew. And then he manages to kill the girlfriend at the end, and that was all this was supposed to be funny.
I now remember this. But yeah, that scene that he's just described is pretty much a perfect metaphor for this entire movie. I'm kind of done really talking about this film now, but
I would not recommend this to anyone.
It was really bad.
Every person who appeared in that film, if you wanted to ruin their career for it.
If you want,
there's a lot.
Yeah, if you want to buy a joke gift for somebody, buy them a DVD copy of this movie, because there are plenty out there. They really wanted to try and sell this. They sunk a lot of money into it.
A lot of money. It was a massive. Thankfully, it was a massive box office.
Yeah, it was a huge bomb, and everybody.
I'm pretty sure whoever wrote the screenplay, or certainly wrote the jokes for it, never works in film again. Because
cat jokes, sex jokes, poo jokes, genital mutilation jokes, and it was an enormous waste of everyone's time and money. Cross that shit off. And next we have a film that we hated even more than this one. Oh my god, did I hate this film.
This was recommended by you, and this is the worst film we've seen this year.
We were
actually the film that made us say,
when never watching bad films.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
We weren't ready for how bad this film was. We weren't ready for how horribly uncomfortable the bad acting, the delivery of lines, which were
sometimes it wasn't the bad acting, it was the thorough determination,
the writing, and absolutely, and the uncomfort. The absolute posing of uncomfort and the attempt at organization of this film. Oh my god. Okay, right, I'll say it then. Ladies and gentlemen, number 5, we have Showgirls.
Showgirls was disgusting.
Oh my god.
So thinking about doing this podcast, I was in the garden earlier thinking, how am I going to define this film? Let's do it like this, okay? The film is supposed to... So it was from the makers of... famous film before it is called
not Raising Arizona.
No. It was called
I need a hint.
No, I've already forgotten. Right, so it's a pretty bold film, and quite open with sexual exploitation, frankly. So the thing was, I think, supposed to be a very cruel satire of the showgirls industry in Las Vegas, the mad patriarchy and the exploitation of the dancers in
these
it.
Things that these women have to go through.
And what some nutters are willing to do to reach the top, whatever that was.
And the people that actually engage in the industry and this wicked, horrible fight.
The making of this film was clearly indulging in all the evils it was trying to present on steroids. It is just an onslaught of boobies, just assaulting you with how thorough, how grotesque its naked scenes were.
It makes you hate the thought of sex. The whole movie just makes you hate the whole idea of anything to do with any form of sex. And
it's one of the biggest turn-offs compared, not as much as number 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say we found more worse than this one. Don't worry.
Showgirls was just foul. You can't help but really have pity for the people who starred in this film, thinking it was going to make them famous. It was all a big break, yada yada yada, and turned out to be this exploitative. It was just horrible. Yeah. Basically, Nomi Malone is the character in the is the character in it, and she's trying to rise to the top of the Las Vegas strip scene, basically. And she needs to topple the current head, and she does this by seducing this bloke's boyfriend, very full on and publicly. What else can I add?
Yeah, it sounds ambiguous. None of them did the Pepsi challenge.
I mean, I got Coke.
Nobody did the Pepsi challenge in this film.
No one was having fun in this film.
Nobody had fun in this entire movie.
Except the blokes in it, because they've got all these women competing for their attention, and it's just sexual slavery as a film. Yeah. Not only as a plot, but the people in this film must have been doing the same.
Yeah, it's almost like they were like, right, what's the worst thing we can make these poor girls do on screen to kind of depict any of this? And are they willing to do it?
It's about sex. It's about boobs. We need boobs. We need to make this groundbreaking.
Yeah, you want to be a star, don't you?
That's within the film, and it's clearly in the production of the film as well. And we're thinking about this through 2 hours of this shit. The script is terrible. None of the dialogue is what someone would actually imitate. You know what? I'm not going to try and quote it. If you're really that interested, just have a look at some of the lines in Showgirls. They just don't make sense. There's a funny bit where there's basically this big woman in that dress who has who can just sort of, tits, no tits. And you go,
oh, yeah. She can go. She's like boobies.
That's right. you know what? If there's anything I don't want to see in this film right now, is more boobies. I would respect a bit more plot.
Absolutely. It's the whole film ends up tries to teach you lessons that you kind of already know.
Yeah. And badly.
Terribly.
I can't help but think a lot of Bill Cosby shit happened in the making of that film.
Kind of feels like it. It's almost like it's trying to. It's almost like it's aimed at Bill Cosby's to try and make them not be Bill Cosby's.
But they secretly know that actually Bill Cosby is going to go.
They've already Cosby'd their bills, and now they're a Bill Cosby, and now there's nothing you can do about Bill Cosby other than get Bill Cosby for all of his Bill Cosby-ness.
Yeah, the person I do feel sorry for is the main girl. It actually ruined her career. It bombed so. To be honest, she was supposed to be this vain woman, and actually, if anyone was actually acting okay, it was her. And because of her association with this film, apparently, like her agents and other agents wouldn't pick up the phone to her.
This is my problem with a lot of movies.
She was like the it girl of the early 90s, and it just ended after this film.
She looks, I tell you, she reminds me a little bit of Winona Ryder. She looks a little bit like her. She's kind of got the same kind of doughy eyes. My problem with a lot of films on our list, and I tell you, probably the vast majority of films on our list, is the fact that it's. I mean, we laugh and joke, but like the factor that it career ruins is a sad thing. It's not something to be. It's not something to be joked about, but the whole unfunniness of it is kind of where our humor comes in, because the fact that it's such an old thing and it's such an acknowledged thing, and there's so many things which exist which are almost worse than it. This is the apex of it. Is that it is such a sad representation of somebody that could have had a very good career, or somebody that did have a good career and then it failed, or somebody that. Or somebody that that did something so heinous as make whatever film that we're talking about, and then
you could have done something like that in so many better, more comfortable ways.
There was hope with every single movie on this list. There was hope at one point at least. Even without there was no.
Cross out Left Behind. That wasn't one of them. Okay.
No, I mean, even then, though, I mean, like on the basis of that, there was probably just some poor fucker who's trying to get people to try and be a little bit nicer to each other in the air.
That is the idea. Yeah, you're all right. But when you get to this end, this podcast is full of these tragedies, these naive things that you're forced to sit through.
Yeah.
And Showgirls is one of those. I mean, if there was any one person I was like, actually, as a person, as an actress, I was feeling for, it was this girl who was trying that hard. Was exposing her boobs that she was so often that she was clearly trying that hard.
Horrendous, the rapey scene.
Would let herself exploit it.
It was like a horrible rape scene.
Wouldn't even get the career for it.
Yeah, it's like a horrible rape scene, and then she goes and she exacts revenge against the dude that rapes her friend, and it's like a thing, and you can imagine people going like
definitely went too far.
Exactly, and you can imagine people going like. Yeah.
Even though actually the producers of this film were saying, okay, we missed the point bit, and they said that scene in particular, we're not even going to mention the word. They said, yeah, that scene went too far.
Yeah. Exactly the whole thing of that though is that there was no. It didn't feel like there was artistic integrity within the delivery of that. It felt like they were almost. I don't know. I can't really.
It was like one of those.
Look at it. Look at it. Yeah.
It was foul. Right, stop. Enough of the
showgirls. We are showgirlsing our own audience right now.
I know. Right, so
that was showgirls.
I'll be honest, frankly, okay. The next films until the final film is actually a lot funnier to talk about than showgirls.
With the exception, the next two films are actually a lot funnier. We're gonna go down a dark hole though. We're gonna get intense after we finish talking about these next two.
Right, all right. At number 4, Food Fight.
We have Food Fight. This is the one, by the way, I thought was movie 43 for a minute.
Charlie Sheen might have been in movie 43. I don't remember, but he is in Food Fight.
He is in Food Fight, and so is the guy from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
And so is Hilary Duff.
Yes.
Right. So Food Fight is an animated film. It was one of those films that ended up in development hell for about 10 years. It consumed about $60 million worth of budget. And the director kept promising it was going to be like the great animated film, right? Now, fairness to him, there was an original draft of the film, and there was supposed to be some studio break-ins. So a lot of the early reels, and not reels, not fucking 1930s.
Rushes.
Yeah, were stolen, so they had to rush the film a bit again. But that doesn't excuse what this film turned out to be at the end, right? It's an animated film.
The animation is so poor that it's really scary. Like
it blares out at you.
It's like the entire film.
It's worse than the costumes of the Garbage Pail Kids.
The entire movie is like a video game glitch. So you have noses and eyebrows which are like leaping out of people's bodies as they're trying to do.
People are walking and their legs are sometimes 6 foot in front of them.
Absolutely, yeah.
No joke.
or it will have a cityscape, and it will be the same cityscape that we've had earlier, which was ever so slightly better rendered as it is now. But now, for some reason, all the buildings that were once green are now vanilla coloured.
It's like one of those. I think my Xbox windows. Is about to break.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, should I change I should stop the play.
I just stopped playing this game because I've actually gone through the entire thing.
Yeah, I think I've glitched out the landscape on this one. Like, and all the characters are going a bit like weird on me. Like something's happening.
Right. So, but so food fight, except maybe number 3 film we're going to go on to is probably the ugliest looking film.
You're quite right, actually. This is the second ugliest.
The second ugliest film ever made. Right. It's, what's also like the plot. So basically, it's set in a supermarket, and the guy was he wanted to get loads of brands in to do a load of sponsoring, and it's set up just for product placement for kids. It's aimed at kids. So Charlie Sheen plays a Humphrey Bogart / Indiana Jones character.
Sausage Party did perfectly what this film was a train wreck of attempting to be.
It did remind me of Sausage Party a bit, yeah. But what else? He's so the main character is after Hilary Duff's character, who's the girl from the Sun Maids like Raisins, but is a child. Remember? There's a dog and a child. And that's the main love plot.
The dog. Yeah.
But there's also a sort of
a detective, isn't he? That's Charlie Sheen.
Yep. There's also a femme fatale character who's trying to seduce the dog, who is a member of Brand X. Remember this?
Oh, I remember Brand X because I remember Brand X is the fascist
yes.
Nazi.
Yes.
So the entire movie as well, by the way, the entire film, like all the way through up to the end, which is an enormous climax of this theme, is all insane, over the top Nazi undertones.
Well over the top for kids. For kids, by the way.
Yeah. So the whole film is. I know. Did it show in cinemas as well? Didn't it?
No, it did not.
No,
it's actually. It ended up. Those poor kids were saved. It ended up, despite the amount of money that went into it and the famous actors into it. It was basically like bargain bucket supermarket DVDs. It was because it was so incomplete. They tried to get any money they could, and thankfully it bombed really hard. But what else shall I? There's a lot to add. The food fight happens at the end. It is the most poorly animated thing that has ever been done. Really?
Yeah, I'd probably say so.
I'm trying to describe what it looks like.
Elf Bowling was amazing compared to this.
The Elf Bowling movie was like seeing Finding Nemo for the first time compared to how badly animated.
Oh, dude, remember how good Finding Nemo was the first time we watched it?
It's better than every film.
It's so good. Finding Nemo's amazing.
However, I'm sorry, dude. You just broken rule number 2, which is we're not allowed to. We're allowed to reference only other films on the list if it's relevant.
Let's have a little break. I'll tell you what. We're just gonna have a little.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm back and round.
Do you want a few seconds to think about something better? 3, 2, 1.
Good animation movies that do exist.
Yeah, man. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Pinocchio.
Fantasia.
Oh my god, Fantasia. Oh. Even 2000s. It's fucking amazing.
Oh yeah.
2000 was dope. And then Toy Story Part 3 was fucking fantastic. I mean, the second one had the second one had Kelsey Crapper.
A Bug's Life, by the way, is another film. It's another film based on Seven Samurai. Did you notice?
Yes, it is. Oh, I never thought about that before.
Yeah, man.
I never thought about that before. Never. Seriously.
How sick it is. Stop.
Okay, right. Now back into the bad film list. Okay.
Right. There's nothing. Is there anything more to say about Food Fight? Bear in mind, you might want to say something else about Food Fight because we'll have to talk about number 3 on the list.
Food fight. No, let's go on to the next one. Let's get this show over with. Rip the band-aid off.
Okay, so if we show some on the list, the main film they ask about the title of is this one.
Yes.
So, Will, do you want to tell me the title?
Oh, I think I'm going to have
Go
to.
on.
Okay, so at number 3 in our top 3, ladies and gentlemen, you've actually hit the top 3 worst movies that we have ever
I'm almost excited.
watched.
But, of course, we're about to talk about what this film
worst
is.
Yeah, you're like sometimes excited, but you're like, I don't want to fucking talk about it because it's fucking horrible.
Because we watched this.
Because I can't believe we watched this film. We watched it. We made our housemates. And he hated it.
He was in for 30 seconds and said, "This is disgusting,"
Yeah,
and he walked out.
The whole thing didn't change after the 30 seconds. It just kept going, and we watched it. We
Over an
subjected
hour.
ourselves. Okay, right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have at number 3 on our worst films ever made list, we have Bat Pussy. Let me repeat that: Bat Pussy.
Yes, it is a porn film.
It is a softcore porn film, basically, and
It's only softcore because that guy's dick was soft throughout the entire film. It tries to be a hardcore.
Yeah, so like the whole film basically takes place on a bed, and our 2 characters, which is like this kind of like I don't know, like it's kind of like white trash guy and white trash girl, and they're both overweight, but in like horrible.
Do you want me to
like,
give a bit of? I remember a bit of the background because it's fascinating. Actually,
I was going to get onto the whole the whole space.
I mean, about how they found it and what it is.
Okay, fine. I don't know if you take us into the background, and then I can just slate it,
and then we can have turns
follow on.
Yeah, right. Okay. Right, so this is another one of those discovered lost films.
Wait, well, just quickly, am I going to crack another one for this last one? I reckon we'll get halfway through another bottle before we finish this list.
Yes,
it's pretty. Okay, right.
Okay.
Sancha, cheers. Down and 1.
Okay.
Better. Right.
Different one.
So this is another one of those lost films that was discovered. It's another famous of the bad films, but most people don't attempt it because of how horrific it is to watch.
True.
Now,
you're quite right.
Now, but people have studied as to where the fuck this film came from, and it was discovered in a film theater, I think in somewhere southern United States. They believe because of some of the cars that go by in one of the scenes that it was done in the late 60s, about 1968, and yeah, it's a horrid porn film. No one knows who starred in it. It was discovered, basically in a box of other porn films, but this was the one that was remembered. That's about all I can add to this. You might as well just fucking... Let's go into exactly how bad
what
this
actually happens on...
We found this on... We streamed this on Pornhub, by the way. It was the only place where it was available.
Absolutely, yeah.
I could tell you that.
My laptop as well, Tom.
It wasn't going to be my laptop. I would have refused.
Probably my laptop. I had really good malware, like anti-malware shit.
Thank God.
Yeah. Okay, so most of the film just takes place in a bed with our 2 protagonists, 2 heroes, which are really
an overweight,
really
ginger-haired woman who has the hair of one of the Supremes.
Yeah, and most of the film is like kind of like not zoomed in, but like it's just her like legs open and the shot of her horrendous muff. Like this is going, is there? You're like.
If you want to turn this off, and turn it off now, okay? Because you
know that shot where Jim Carrey sees, in Dumb and Dumber, where he sees Lloyd with his girlfriend, and he starts like going. He's like trying to throw up for like a few seconds.
That was us for an hour.
That was us for the whole of this movie.
So basically, right.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll leave you the moment I'm finished with the space opera. Okay. The walk out bit. Okay. So this guy, he's flaccid throughout the entirety of this movie. Not once is he hard, so it confuses you so much because you're like, why is he?
Most of us have made the excuse. I'm sorry, darling. I had a bit of a drink. I'm not in the mood. So I've had a busy day.
Horrendous amount of cocaine last year. And as a result, my member is inactive at the moment. But he's convinced he's convinced of some weird part of him that it works. It must be. We don't understand why. And he's like kind of trying to mash.
It's because he's never done it before.
He's like mashing it.
Right.
Like,
I say this to the internet. Right? As a bloke, if it ain't there, it ain't there. And fucking make an excuse and just fucking bow out. Your excuse is actually valid, and if they're understanding, it's fucking cool.
Go to sleep.
Go to sleep.
Just go to sleep.
No, he tries even harder, right?
He keeps going. He does not stop.
But he's clearly never seen a puss his entire life.
He's
never seen a woman his entire life.
And he keeps like fanning and touching hers, but like in a really shit way that he's like yeah, and
give me that pussy.
Yeah, and he keeps
give me that big old pussy.
He's like give me that pussy. Like the whole way through this movie.
And the woman is just going, "You ain't never seen no pussy."
She just calls him when he shits, but doesn't stop him. But she doesn't stop him, doesn't fight him, and or anything. She just stays there and goes, "You ain't got this, pussy. You can't get this," but just lets him go to like whatever town he tries to get to, and it's horrible. And you, right, and
break. Okay, what happens in the middle of the film? Go.
Okay. Anyway, we get a thankful scene cut occasionally, which is to the whole purpose of this movie, the reason why it was made, which we hope, we don't know, which is the bat pussy component, which is the bat. So there is,
and it's in the back cave, so but it's actually literally a fucking garage.
Yeah, so she's
that
in
says
the garage.
Bat cave on a paper sign at the back,
and she gets so her bat sign kind of goes off, and it's time for her to take action. And she, I don't know.
Do you know what the bat sign is?
No.
It literally, the line is, her pussy twitches when she knows there's crime.
Oh, totally forgot about that one. Okay, anyway.
You're okay to forget about it.
Yeah, sure. I totally forgot about that one.
You're lucky.
And then she dons outfit or loses pants or something. I can't quite remember what happens. And then she gets on her mode of transportation, which is a space hopper, and goes. And there's about probably within the entire
that was the only funny bit really.
The entire movie. There's about 5 minutes of footage, which is just her bouncing with no pants on, like across a moor, like for ages. She goes over this hill, and then there's some guy who's robbing some poor lady on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, and she comes across this and gets off her space. She dismounts from her space hopper and then goes in and wrestles.
No, beats him over the head with the space hopper.
Oh, really?
It's the space hopper.
And then goes and
bonk. And then you go, "Thank you, bat pussy."
Yeah, she's like, "Thank you." And then she's like, "Yeah, all good." And then she gets back on the space hopper and goes back off onto it. And eventually, bat pussy, our lady, arrives at said bedside, which is.
I'm going to add a point now. What made it even more hilarious and even worse for the bloke in it is he clearly thinks bat pussy is more attractive than the woman he's with at the moment. And he thinks, "Thank God I might finally get a boner." And he tries. He gets all the stops out to try and get a hard on. And he's like all over her. The woman in the background, I can't believe we're discussing this fucking film.
I don't know. I'm agree.
And he's trying extra
she's like
hard.
lying on the
and
side
eventually,
of the bed. She's like right on the edge of the bed. She's like,
and then she falls off. He chucks her off by mistake.
Yeah. She falls off the side of the bed, and then on camera, she gets super pissed off in real life and stands up and goes, "I can't do this shit." Doesn't she say? I'm not doing it. She says, "I'm not doing this shit," and fuck it, and just strolls off like proper, like, "I'm fucking done." And then he just kind of goes like, and then goes back. And then goes back to the redhead.
And I'm pleased to say that's the end of the film.
That's the end of the entire movie.
So,
there you go.
Right, so before, by the way, we didn't learn. Right, this is the greasiest film we've ever watched.
It was horrible.
But we were referring to the Wikipedia list of worst films ever made, and it's comprehensive. Reading about this film, I said, "Will, this is at the time we actually wanted to know what the worst film ever was, and now we don't want to know what the worst film ever was."
Yeah, I'm good now.
Will. Bat pussy.
Yeah, we just read the name.
It's the worst porn ever made.
Like,
are we watching it? And he was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, go on. I don't know why, but
we delayed it for a long time.
We put it off so much. We added like another 5 things to the list, like after saying okay to this, because like, but we kind of had to.
Yeah, but you kind of had to see what the inside of the gates of hell looked like. I just want to see what the padlock looked like.
Do you know what the inside of the gates of hell looked like? It was what that bloke saw when he said, "Give me that pussy. Give me that big old pussy.
You can't get this pussy. You
ain't never seen no pussy.
You ain't never seen this pussy before.
Shut up. I know pussy. That's a big old pussy."
And that is basically the whole of this movie. That was number 3.
That was
Thank you very much.
The only redeeming thing was when quite often we'd have to turn away. And you'd look at each other and go, What the fuck are we watching?
Why are we doing this? Why is this happening?
Carry on.
Exactly.
It's disgusting.
You sit there and then you start laughing at the fact that you're watching it.
That was the only redeeming.
Exactly.
Oh, really?
The whole seventh wall break when you go, what is life? Why are we watching this?
As I cross it off, here's the dramatic setup I'm deliberately going to word as it is. We've seen 2 films that are worse than this film.
Worse than this one.
How bad do you think the next 2 films are? You already know the answer.
You already know. And we have a DVD copy of the first one.
Which we will present. You can keep it, actually. Anyone who wants to set the DVD off their hands, you can keep it.
You're going to have it. You can take it off our hands.
I'll literally hurl it at
we
you.
plant it in each other's bedrooms or close to each other's in our work bags when you get to work, like a live hand grenade that's got the pin attached to the fucking safety bit.
It's been to America and back as well.
It went
We stuck it in your bag. So when he unpacked his bag,
such a cunt. I was so pissed off when it came. I didn't even laugh. I was so angry. I was like, I can't believe it. Oh my god. I was so upset. I opened my bag and I was like, you absolute bastards. No. But it made its way into the pool. And
you should have left it there.
Yeah, I should have actually. I should have fucking. I was, in all honesty, I was actually thinking of asking if I go to a shooting range and just blow the shit out of it.
I wouldn't blame him.
I know. I was looking at finding different weapons, and I was going to ask them. I had this whole speech ready for the guy that owned the shooting range. I was like, am I allowed to attach my own things to the little firing, the
backstory
little
here? We've watched the worst film that has ever been made, and my housemates have just put it in my bag. I wouldn't mind blowing it out of a shotgun.
Ross has got a hole in his a little hole in the slat of his mattress, and I slid it in, and he got into bed and he got all comfy, was unpajamaed, everything, brushed teeth, pissed, ready for sleep, turned over, and then discovered the copy of the DVD. I was over the moon.
That's happened more than once, you swat.
But there was only once though that I actually managed to find the slat, and you spent ages trying to find out how I'd got it.
I felt it straight away, I know that's the DVD.
Like the Princess and the Pea, but
it's how he got the worst film ever made. That close. Okay, but there is another film. Slightly better than the worst film ever made. It's the second worst film ever made.
This one we hated.
I'll tell you what. I'll do the dramatic setup because I just thought of something.
Yes, please.
So we already know how bad Ed Wood is. It is true that he might even be worse than Neil Breen. Dare I say it? But imagine, every director's first film is probably going to be the worst film they ever did. What was the first film that Ed Wood ever did? What's the title?
With the grave exception, of course, of Orson Welles' masterpiece, which this is a counter opposite.
This is the opposite of Citizen Kane.
Yeah, if you could think of what's the opposite of Citizen Kane? Yeah, this is it.
Glenn or Glenda?
We have at number 2 on our list, ladies and gentlemen, we have Glenn or Glenda by Ed Wood, which was his argument for transvestites. Yeah.
However, okay, first of all, it's probably the era where no one is accepting of it. So he's trying to find his identity within him.
Is it him as well? So he's actually, but isn't he the cross-dressing person?
Yeah, he stars in the film.
Yeah, that was it. Okay.
So first of all, if there is any credit you can give him, because this film's that bad, so there is no credit you can give him.
He's got balls.
Yeah, he wished he didn't, but
the whole way through, he really doesn't want balls. But
so he is trying to find his identity within this film, and okay. What is strange about this film is, in fact, it's a portfolio of the very confused sexual mysticisms of the guy. Well, frankly, any guy, and you wouldn't want to know it that much, because he's actually obsessed with furry things throughout the entire film. He's obsessed with fur. He used to go up. There's scenes where he goes up to women's handbags that are furry, and he cannot help but go.
Oh yeah,
but he thinks this is like a feminine thing, not just he likes fur thing.
Like he does, like the whole way through the, because I really
we're just getting started, by the way.
But like the whole way through the film, he can't actually, he doesn't know what it like. It's almost like he wants to be a woman, but he has he has no inkling. Like he's never actually sat and listened to.
He doesn't know what a woman is because he doesn't know what being a human being is.
Yeah, he doesn't know what a woman is. He doesn't know what a human being is. He doesn't know. He's never sat and actually listened to a lady sitting across him and actually saying something to him. It feels like he's never actually listened to somebody. He's just he's just imposed his own ideology on anything that they're saying to him. And
his film
that's what you said.
His film is that excuse.
Yeah, the whole movie is that. And it's really long as well.
It's actually not that long. It's only just over an hour.
No, that's really long. It's like
it feels like it's about.
No,
it feels longer.
It feels no. Ross, don't worry. You're completely right. I'm sure it's about an hour and 20 minutes long. I'm saying it feels like it's about 8 hours long. It was horrible.
The film is basically very cheap set design, all of that, but it's full of the directors. Some films have directors' masturbatory things in it, like Leprechaun 5 or whatever.
Yeah, Leprechaun Part 5.
But this film, the entire thing is that. Like, all the horrible scenes within that film.
Samurai Cop was another one.
Yeah, it's all of that within one film. And you know what? That's just the start. Not only is it confused, not only do you feel sorry for the bloke, not only do you want to help him and just give him a fucking chat, a conversation like, dude, how must it feel to be you? He's got
what's going on, mate? Like, seriously, like the fact that this guy never ended up in an asylum or ended up with a team of doctors around him that were, with pens and pads. How is Nurse Ratched not in charge of this man's day-to-day affairs? Is insane. Like it's completely fascinating.
Like give him some structure.
Fucking prefrontal lobotomy after you'd fucking.
This film has no structure. Now, right. So one of the worst scenes in it. So it's Bela Lugosi, who's basically the Dracula bloke on the morphine addict, and he unfortunately meets Ed Wood. There's a scene that lasts ages, and it's basically him prying into. I forget the setup, it doesn't even matter. An orgy of furry things and...
Oh, God, yeah.
You remember?
I do remember that.
It lasted for ages.
Yeah. We were like, yeah, this is going to stop soon, didn't
A 10, 15-minute escapade of people in furry sofas throwing themselves on each other in this softcore weirdness, and actually quite hardcore for whenever this film was made.
Isn't it like a team of people that they try to have a conversation, but like the mic boom isn't like properly close to them, so it's like not that you don't actually kind of know everything.
Like some of our podcasts.
Yeah, like some of my podcasts.
Yeah. But it would go back to Bela Lugosi, the old man, prying in and going. For ages.
Yeah.
Ages and ages.
Like he's
You're
just
getting more and more uncomfortable, and we're saying to each other, cut this scene, just end it, we get it. And it just kept going and going.
There's no amount of wine or anything that can take the edge off how horrendous this film was.
And you know why this was worse than Bat Pussy? Bat Pussy, you could laugh at it or at yourself for watching it.
It was like
Glenn or Glenda doesn't let you do it. There's no humour in it. It's just feeling sorry for this bloke, but him attacking you with his fantasies as well.
And Bela Lugosi is a mess. Like he's like absolutely
he's seconds from death.
Absolutely. He's like on the screen. He's a twisted mess of a human being. It's like seeing Kurt Cobain when he's in the house at the end. Like if you had like a CCTV in on that. Like it's horrendously uncomfortable to watch the entire movie. And we hated every moment of it. We really like from the get go. It was horrible. The movie opens up with a news article about like transvestites and things like that, and the whole thing is just this confused riddle of mixed emotions and antiquated beliefs.
And it was also it was an autobiography of the director.
Yeah,
one of the things in it is basically soldier.
He is that, isn't he? Sorry, just like in real life, Edward didn't he indulge in all sorts.
He did like transvesticism, but he was only obsessed with fur because his mother used to wear what's the name of it? What's the is it alpaca fur?
Yeah, llama.
Yeah, he used to wear stuff like that. But there's a scene in it where he explains about the main character, who is him, is a soldier during the war who's wearing women's underwear, and that was him as well.
Which is the only.
So a lot of it is very personal, but it's very personal, but also really confused. You know, if you're in a fight a war wearing women's underwear, you're probably not the only one who's fucking done it, okay? But what the actual problem here is, it's this display of fucking mental illness. That was and a very vivid one, and that for me was the thing that made it so heart-wrenchingly uncomfortable. And we saw this film about 2 years ago now, and I'm recalling it like this, and it was that bad. But some films touch upon it. The Klansman, for example.
Yeah, they have moments of great uncomfort in them. Like Leonard Part 6 had moments of great, but there was a lot of it where there's
other stuff in it to distract yourself.
You have these weird moments where no matter how bad, how twisted, how horrible something can be, it has moments where you can float upon the set and it becomes tolerable, and it's very strange. And it's only when you watch the amount of shit that we've actually watched as well, when you can actually realize what these moments are. But this entire film was that uncomfort. This entire film was that discomfort. It was that essence of cringe and horribleness that you can't.
And also, like, we knew how Edward died.
Yeah.
Alcoholism. Yeah. He never got over himself. He never settled. This film was an attempt to try and find himself within it, and it clearly did nothing for him. If anything, this gave him the idea that he could do more films. And he fucking can't, because we've already talked about Plan 9.
I know. I think we've kind of dragged it down enough, and we've dragged the mood down enough of this podcast, but we're about to drag it right down to the depths of hell. Because
if you really want to know what the forbidden film is, I gotta be blunt, mate, and before we start.
Okay, we're gonna talk about the worst.
No.
I'm doing well. I'm not gonna drop it yet. I was saying
I need the toilet, mate. I need the toilet.
Okay.
That's why.
Go.
I'm sorry.
Did you want to?
No. I just needed the toilet, and I didn't want you. I didn't want you to think that I was leaving you to present the film, because that's not fair. Because this film is the worst film.
This, ladies and gentlemen, for us, after everything that we have sampled, seen, digested, ingested, and dealt with, is really an enormous waste of time and energy on every single part. The definition of it, the construction of it, and we're going to go into all of that. It really is the worst movie ever made. I don't want to say too much about it really without Ross in the room. There's things like the fact that the DVD copy that we have of it isn't even the full film. It's not even the full horror that it was. And our other housemate, by the way, who is not present at the moment, he's away this evening. I'm going to have him featured on another podcast at some point, and we'll sit down and probably we'll bring this up because we because this is the final part. This is part 3, and not only is this the final part, but this is the final moment of everything of all 3 podcast sections as well. The parts that we've been working towards. This is it, and this is the movie that topped the charts. That fucking destroyed everything, blew it all out the water.
When we saw it, we knew nothing was going to beat it.
Our neighbour, we had the window open in the room that we were watching it in. Our neighbour, who never spoke to us once that entire year, who had more building work done on his house. He had the foundations ripped up. He had the roof taken off the whole house. It wasn't a terrace. It was an entire detached house. Had the entire roof taken. He came over and complained at us for being so loud because we were sitting there shouting hate.
He was right to as well. We were screaming.
We were screaming hate at the television because I've never hated a film so much. And I think now is the time that we reveal the name of said film itself.
Do you want to say it, or shall I?
We'll say it exactly at the same time after a countdown. I'm gonna chin this motherfucker first.
I ain't gonna chin it. I don't need to in case I say the film and throw up. I tell you what, just so one of us doesn't pass out, how about we say one word each?
Okay, and then we'll say it together. Just to make sure that everybody knows it as well, because it is. I've heard stories of. Okay. No. I've heard stories of other people who've like mentioned of films where they've broken down like what they saw and like what the story was like of the film and how bad it was.
I think the
entire film was just this guy getting his head cut off and then he died.
Oh, it's a shit film.
Then he had sex with his head after he cut it off and it was fucking horrible and weird. Yeah, you've no idea. You're not ready. You're not ready. Shut up. Sit down. Because this is okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Ninja
Commandments.
Ninja Commandments.
Ninja Commandments. Right. Okay. So let's talk about this copy. Right. That's not actually Ninja Commandments. It's a knockoff of Ninja Commandments that was terrible, but still more palatable than the actual Ninja Commandments that we watched. Let's have a look at that.
Perfect, fantastic. That's exactly where it belongs. Is on the floor with the discs strewn. The belt sander, not the belt sander. The mouse sander, the detail one I used for this very bar. I attempted to actually fight. It wouldn't die. It's like a Horcrux. It needs some God-given fucking spell to kill this fucking thing.
Right. Anyway, it's about how to start with this film. Okay. Do you want to start with the plot or start with how it made us feel?
Okay, so I'll start with the plot and you move on to how it made us feel. So the plot actually itself, in terms of the breakdown of how the film measures up. So we're going to talk about it from the scope of the original version that we actually watched. The original version that we actually watched was triple dubbed. So it was a Filipino, isn't it?
Okay, it's a part American, part Filipino.
So it was an American. So it was an American film. Originally, it was it's hard to define it. It's a Filipino soap opera, which was
exploitation
film, which ended up on a cutting room floor, covered in dust that everybody ignored. That somebody actually found and rescued it, and then brought it to the attention of I can't remember, it was an American firm, wasn't it? And then they designed or built footage in order to try and zest it and spice it up a little bit and try and sell it on, which does nothing for it. And not only that, but the footage they made for it just makes it worse, because the footage they made was so terrible. It was if somebody had given like a white Bruce Lee bath salts and then had taken all of his kung fu powers and coolness away and then said hey guys, put him on camera and then just let him loose.
Stuck a rocket up his arse to a huge wall of shit. It's what Ninja Commandments is like to watch.
Exactly, and there's loads of executions of these absolutely piss poor, appalling dialogue scenes where they go I must stop you and whatnot.
Do you want me to give this a go? We need to take turns to give it a go, really.
I was going to talk about the whole mum with the kid thing of the Philippine side of it. Okay, but you go.
We need to take turns, really, to define this film.
This is so bad.
It's two shit films spliced together. The ninja bit, if it can be called that, is these middle-aged white guy actors who are clearly failing on their careers.
They're having midlife crises,
big time.
Like all white haired and wrinkly and with shit beards,
and bad teeth, and they're doing there's a ninja empire, okay, and they want to achieve something.
I can't believe we actually made it. We've circled it. It's I can't believe this movie's being discussed. This is what our neighbours are going to tell us off again.
I
We're in
know,
the conservatory.
I genuinely won't.
I'm worried that we're
Okay. Let me try and keep my voice down. I'll tell you about this.
Okay.
So the Filipino drama bit in which it's spliced with. So there's a ninja bit. There's a ninja bit, and it's supposed to be the setup. The drama bit is an exploitation film. We've already established. So there is this son who is raised by the mother, but he doesn't know that she is the mother. He believes she's an auntie of some sorts.
Yeah.
And this makes up most of the film. There's mostly no ninjas.
Like 2/3, solid 2/3.
More than that.
Yeah, it probably is. 3/4 of the entire movie is this kid kicking and just shitting on his mum. He just hates his mum.
It's very abusive.
And he's like physically abusive. Like,
do you know what makes it even worse?
Like,
before this happens, she saves him from a house fire.
Yeah.
And she horribly disfigures herself in the process.
Yeah.
And kids are teasing him because his mother is horribly disfigured.
Yeah.
And he is taking out his anger on her
on his
by
own mum,
beating her. Oh.
And this
your
is,
turn.
Okay, and this is spliced in and out of ninja scenes where these like
they don't make sense.
They don't make sense. And it's like about this ninja empire they're trying to build, and they're trying to take over like something, and you don't know what it is that they're trying to take over. And they're like really important. And they're like really serious to each other, and they wear headbands. They wear headbands, and these
ninja.
Yeah, they say ninja on the headbands, and they're wearing like these bright, sparkly pink and blue costumes. But they like really serious. They're like ultra serious, and it's oh god.
Do you want me to take over?
Yeah, please. Please.
So
tag it.
So while this ninja bullshit is happening, the son gets a bit older, turns to a life of crime, right, so the dad has been missing for several years, okay? The dad is in prison. Somehow, and completely unconnected to the ninja okay, so let me try. Ninja commandments, what does it mean? Basically, the main ninja dude, while he's trying to spread out the action of the film, is going to splice his way into while all this depressing shit is happening and give these ninja codes that make no coherent sense.
It's going to save this kid's life. It's going to move something forward.
But it doesn't. He misses the point. He says this really obvious bullshit all the time.
Yeah, and the two characters never meet. So the whole point of it all leads up to nothing. And isn't there a fire at the end of the film? And don't they both die? Oh no, the kid dies.
No, I remember the ending. So if you want to leave me to the ending, I'm happy to.
Okay, right.
But you do more ninja bullshit because I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, so we have many fight scenes between the ninjas.
Fight scene? You would call it a fight scene?
Disagreements where the two meet and they kind of stare at each other for a while, and they
a long while. They go and they sort of
and they change sword stances, and then they like miss each other, and then they look at each other again, and then all of a sudden one of them goes, "Oh." And they've all got like really like Asian, like Chinese names or something. You don't quite know what part of Asia they're actually from.
They're clearly losers from Hollywood. They need any job they can.
Absolutely, and they all kind of go, "Oh, Sanjirio, you beat me. I'm trying to get the ninja commandment codes to the other people."
See that? Yeah.
And then the guy dies and blood spurts out of his mouth.
Like, even that is too coherent because nothing has.
Like, I'm giving it way too much. Like, I'm using artistic license in order to try and beef up this shit because it's so bad.
But do you want me to finish the plot so we can talk about how it made us feel watching it?
Yeah.
Let me wrap it up. Right. So I don't know. I don't remember how, and I don't want to remember how because I'm never watching this film again.
Never.
The bloke realizes that his auntie, who he's been torturing his whole life, is actually his mum. He also finds out that his dad is still alive, but he's in prison. He, to try and make amends, tries to get the mum to meet the dad again. The mum is dying, It's chucking it down with rain, and he carries his mum on his back, trying desperately for forgiveness. I know this bit's almost powerful in that it's a redemption story. He's being a dick, and it's like, oh god, he better find dad. So he carries her through the rain, like, don't die, mum, don't die. Gets to the prison, and in one moment, he opens the prison door. The dad has hung himself, and the mum has died on his back.
Yep, there we go.
Film ends.
See.
Right, stop. So, I tell you what, if you've had time to think about it, you'll never have enough time to think about it, actually.
No.
But if you've had time to think about it while I've been explaining it, how did this film make you feel?
Yeah. This film made me seriously question the time that I have devoted to watching any of these movies.
Any film, I can.
Or any film actually altogether. It was a revelation. There was something special about this one in particular because it isolated my hatred that I knew that was capable inside of me for film scenes. So when one witnesses something of a visual or and slash auditory maybe aspect, and you sit there and you feel that pure hatred and anger with you. I've never felt that for so long throughout an entire movie. This film managed to generate that and grasp it, and there was at no point did I feel like it was usefully harnessed. At no point did I feel like that my hatred was liberated, or that I felt like I was going to be a better person at the end of watching this, or that I felt like I was going to learn something. There was no point that I felt like I was going to be. I didn't feel like I was going to be shocked by something as well that was going to make me think. There wasn't some guy being, his head wasn't being bludgeoned in by a fire extinguisher for 5 minutes for no reason, whereby you could go, okay, I know I don't want that to happen to me, and I know I don't want to do that to anybody else, and I know that's the wrong thing to do, and I'm going through this whole motion, and this is really shocking me right now, and this is turning a page, and I'll never forget this because of the fact that it's super shocking. None of that.
No.
I felt so vanilla and angry and upset and pissed off with the whole of existence that this film existed, that somebody had put this together.
I quite agree.
And that's what annoyed me, was that I sat through all of it.
What did they think we were going to get out of this?
Exactly. Who created this and decided that this was a worthy representation of human existence and time on this earth in terms of anything? That it shocked me of how much I can't. Over to you. I'm done. I fucking hated this film. We just hit 2 hours, by the way.
Cool. Okay. What can I say about this film and how it made me feel? I want to use badly worded cliches like it was like being repeatedly kicked in the balls by someone for an hour and a half. It doesn't really do it justice.
No.
From the moment it started, it sucked the soul out of you. Everything about the film that could be bad was bad, and that wasn't even the whole point. It was the clear fuck you that someone was having from having made this, and the fact you were watching it, and gave you nothing, no single satisfying chunk. I say chunk, even a fucking sliver,
a crumb.
Even the idea that this film could end is something that made Bat Pussy or Glenn or Glenda more tolerable. However, this film knew it was so bad you were never going to forget it. Or maybe it didn't know it was that bad. But either way, I never forgot it.
The way it was shot, it was dreary. The landscapes,
everything was ugly. It was disgusting.
Yeah,
there was not a single cultural element that was kind of interesting. At least American Hippie in Israel is filmed in 1971 in Israel, right on the height of the Arab-Israeli conflict. It's interesting that a film like that exists and whatever. And you can do this. You can think about this film. Ninja Commandments doesn't do that at any point. It's stupid. It's exploitative. It's exploitative. I'll say that part again. It's horrible to everyone who's involved.
Everybody loses. Nobody wins. Nobody won. Nobody had a good time. Nobody enjoyed themselves, and especially not the people fucking watching it. And I hated. I hated every moment of it. I've never disliked a film more in my life.
And do you know what?
Like, people have described films to me that I wish I watched instead of watching this. Then they've gone, "Oh God, I watched this film once," and they go, "You should watch this." And I think, you know what? I would rather watch that film other than the one I just watched, even just through you discussing it. Every time I've just tried, I'm not shitting you, I've rebutted people that have told me to watch something that they have considered to be the worst movie I've ever made. Some people have said, and not only that, but people have actually hit on something which has been in the top 10 before that I've gone, wow, I'm amazed.
Well done. You didn't watch Ninja Commandments.
Nobody has ever. I've sat through people giving me 5 to 10, even discussion, 5-minute discussions on something that they found so displeasing that they would never watch it again, and not one moment. And I've had a lot of these.
I'm okay. I'm always open for the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Just in case somebody describes something to me that I go, wow, there's nothing redeeming about that. Could it be worse than Ninja Commandments? I may put this to the test. Not one point have I ever thought that.
Never come close.
Never. Never.
There's not a moment you can laugh at yourself for watching it. There's not a moment where there's unintentional. It's definitely not a moment where there's unintentional humor. That would have been a lovely relief, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Ninja Commandments is the pit of hell of cinema. Yeah. It's the film that makes you wish cinema was never invented, just so we didn't have to see this film, and just so this was never made, and no one in this film could ever profit from it. Right, I think we're done. I mean,
fuck Ninja Commandments.
I'm not even going to finish by saying, if you want to watch it, you can totally... Don't.
Oh, we did it.
I've got nothing to add.
Cheers. Done. Thank you ever so much, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll finish it right there. We've finished.
What have we done?
We finished talking about our top 60 worst movies that we have ever witnessed in our entire lives. And we watched every single last minute of all those, with the exception of Santa with Muscles and I think maybe Old Dolly. All but together. And we have now finished it. We've done it. We've finished it. And
let's try and end on a light-hearted note, because we're talking about it.
Yeah, it was particularly intense and upsetting. And
we don't talk about that film. I mean, it gets mentioned all the time. And if someone brings it up, we say, "Fuck you."
We call it the film,
the forbidden film.
Maybe. The forbidden film, or like
we don't talk about.
But the only thing that brings us joy is the thought of never watching it, like the fact that or that somebody thinks they've watched something worse as well. Like
at least I've won. I mean, I wish I hadn't.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing where you've come in first place and you want to give somebody else the trophy.
Yeah,
because you're like, I don't like this, but
it's scientifically true in our eyes that Ninja Commandments is the worst film ever made.
Never. I've never thought of or heard anything else ever since which has even come close to being a worthy excuse of something that could compete with how bad that movie was. My God, I hated it. Wow. I was impressed by. I wasn't even.
Do you know what? And something else. If I were to mention a final point, is what you know those great films, those favorite films. None of them ever gave you the emotional impact of that really bad film, did it? None made me scream at the screen like Ninja Commandments did.
It was the polar opposite of Casablanca. It was the polar opposite of Citizen Kane.
Space Odyssey.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm seriously considering watching a large portion of Casablanca. I've been work tomorrow, but I'm seriously considering watching a large portion of Casablanca or something very nice that's amazing this evening. It's a Wonderful Life. Something.
Is it a Wonderful Life? Because we've seen Ninja Commandments.
Not if this film exists within it. Maybe it's a questionably wonderful life.
It's an okay life within reason because Ninja Commandments exists.
But yeah.
Right, let's drop it. Okay, we've watched 60 bad films. Let's go for our highlights, just to finally top us off for the last 2 or 3 minutes. What film would you recommend from our list, Will?
If I could recommend any movie for anybody to watch, I would have to be either Death Game or The Room, but it would have to be Death Game, and it would probably be swiftly followed by Turkish Star Wars, Zardos, and
Fuck yeah, those films are great, aren't they?
Fantastically, interestingly stupid, and you can pontificate on them for hours, and you would never be right or wrong, and it didn't matter.
Mate, I nearly watched Death Game while I was making dinner earlier.
It's so
I
funny.
came very close.
Type Death Game with Huang Zhangli, and it's got a picture of him giving an awesome, super high, pointless high kick on the front of it. And it's ridiculous, crap, crude, silly, pointless, but it doesn't care. It doesn't care. It's there to make noise and be loud and stupid and do kung fu.
And Ninja Commandment's is there to drag any life, any soul, any happiness from you. Absolutely. I guarantee it's not worth it. I don't think there's anything else to add.
Absolutely. I think this is a great podcast. I'm not gonna lie.
Actually, you know what? We did this in one take.
Yeah, and, this is the first and only take, whereas the other two we actually did on the second take on both of them.
And we did just fine. I mean, those films are bad, but it's over. We're never going to watch them. We might mention the odd one, but we'll never watch them and talk about them properly ever again.
It feels great. Feels great, dude. Cheers. An absolute pleasure going through this rabbit hole with you. And Ross, by the way, will be returning to Biscotti Conversations. We'll be having actually a nice discussion. Another point, by the way, in the distant future, potentially maybe either end of this year or beginning of next year, we will be touching on our bad song list. But
okay, so bad films is one thing, but we spent just as much time listening to bad music as well, and we're very good at that. Very good.
Very good. Unfortunately good. But
as soon as we work out a fair way to order what is the worst song ever made, then we'll do it. But
there's no order. It's just all a big blur of ridiculousness at the moment.
We don't have the rights to play it as well, which makes it more difficult.
Exactly. So we'll just end that kind of talking.
You don't really want us to. No. You don't want to hear it either. But we'll think of something along those lines, won't we?
Yeah. So for the next few podcasts, though, that I have my absolute wonderful friend here featuring on, we'll be discussing our high points. We'll be discussing our favorite albums of all time. We'll be discussing our favorite movies ever made. Our favorite movie list is very difficult because the fact that it's just going to be basically 10 each. And
we've not often seen the same movies.
And they do cross over quite a bit.
But they cross over as well. It's interesting. It wasn't a collaborative list. It was one of those. Let me talk about this film thing. And hopefully be a bit nicer to talk about.
Yeah, we're moving on to beer and nicer things. We managed to take the sting out of whiskey with wine this evening as well, which was a lot nicer.
I'd have been even angrier talking about Ninja Commandments if I were drinking whiskey. I might have flipped the bar.
Yeah.
This is over. Let's stop filming. I am done. Yeah. But no, it didn't happen.
No, exactly, because wine takes the sting out of the tail. Anyway, thank you ever so much, though, guys, for staying as long as you did. If you did, and if you did, well done. And
God bless you all.
And
if there's any one thing I can do from the 5 hours of total podcast time from this, I will give you this one piece of advice, and so it will. Never watch Ninja Commandments. Thank you.